Hey guys, this is Sableye here from Phantom Knight Trading Company, here to bring you a deck review of Darkrai Sableye for Legacy format. So, Darkrai Sableye is probably one of the top 4 decks in the format right now, and that's because Darkrai has a lot of good things going for it. It's got this ability, Dark Cloak, that gives each of your Pokemon that has any dark energy attached free retreat. So it allows your Pokemon to basically take a hit and then retreat for free and still potentially have another hit in the future without wasting all the energy. It's also a dark Pokemon, so it can utilize Dark Patch. And it's got this attack Night Spear, which hits for 90 damage and 30 on the bench. So 90 and 30 doesn't really seem like anything amazing, right? It adds up to 120. I mean, basic, like non-EXs can hit for 120. So why is this so great? Well, because you're usually not going to go for the one-hit KO with Darkrai. You're trying to set up 2-hit KOs with things on the bench. And that's kind of what Night Spear does. It 2-hit KOs any EX, and it can do 30 damage to the bench in the process. So you can set up multiple KOs this way, and that's kind of how Darkrai does all of its winning, is that it starts to hit. It's not going to be fast, it's not going to be hard hitting, but it'll be slow and methodical, and eventually everything's going to wrap up into a nice picture where you're going to take multiple KOs to finish out the match. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other pieces of the deck here. We have 2 Smeargle. We've already talked about this in a previous video, but it's got this ability, this Poke Power Portrait, that allows you to basically look at the opponent's hand and use a supporter if you find one there. So this is going to be used in this deck because it's going to be a generally mid-paced deck. It's not going to be too slow, it's definitely not fast, it's just kind of in the middle. Darkrai, being in the middle, kind of has a good 50-50 matchup with almost any deck. It does struggle a little bit with Celebi Genesect and some super fast decks that can kind of overwhelm you, especially if your draws aren't cooperating. But there's a lot of potential for comebacks with this deck because of the sniping damage, because really fast decks usually they run out of steam towards the end. They've used up all their resources, you know, and that's kind of where Darkrai shines, is at the very end, where it's able to set up a couple of KOs to take like a bunch of prizes at once. So that's kind of how it does the job. And Portrait's here for the early phase, where you're trying to set up 1 Darkrai or 2 Darkrai or however many Darkrai's you want. And Portrait's going to help you to keep your draw consistent. It'll allow you to see a lot of cards from your deck, and it'll allow you to kind of get set up really fast. The other reason why Portrait is here is because we don't run a lot of supporters in this one. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have a total of 9 supporters, and one of them is a specialty supporter. It's not even a draw supporter. So 8 draw supporters means that you're going to need more than just 8. And that's kind of where Smeargle comes in. Smeargle is going to be there early on to kind of get you a couple more supporters, to get you to set up faster. And it'll take a couple of hits too. It's only 1 prize, and it's got 70 HP. If it survives 2 turns, that's great. But yeah, so Smeargle will help us set up. We also have Absol here as a backup attacker. Absol has the attack Mind Jack, does 20 damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So if your opponent has a full bench, then Absol's doing 120 damage for 2 energy. And it's a non-EX. So that's a lot of damage that a non-EX can dish out for just 2 energy. And, well, of course, you're not going to hit 120 all the time, but like I said, a lot of decks will kind of be fast-paced, and they're going to try to set up as quickly as possible. So that's going to involve benching a lot of things, too. And so Darkrai kind of takes advantage of that with Absol, with its Mind Jack ability here. For more support, we also have Sableye. Sableye's got this attack Junk Hunt. Put 2 item cards from your discard pile into your hand. So Sableye is here just to kind of start with. If we can get a couple of dark patches early on, maybe some Crushing Hammers early on. Sableye can just recycle all those items and allow you to kind of energy denial the opponent while you're setting up your Darkrai. That's kind of the purpose. It's kind of the theory. In testing, though, Sableye wasn't really all that helpful to me, partly because I usually generally prefer faster decks that kind of have a lot of hard-hitting potential, and that's not what this deck is. So maybe my decision-making in my playtesting kind of overlooks Sableye in favor of trying to get an attacker powered up, like a Darkrai or an Absol. So in the playtesting I did, like I said, Sableye wasn't as helpful. It's potentially even a cut, because I think the deck can function fine just with Darkrai and Absol. You almost don't even need Sableye, especially with Junk Arm in the format. Junk Arm will really help you to kind of get your items back anyway. The same purpose that Sableye does. So, I mean, yeah, it's true that you're not going to be wasting all your Junk Arms for resources like Crushing Hammers. The times that you're going to start with Sableye and you're going to have a Hammers early on are not that often. And Sableye doesn't last all that long either. It's got 70 HP, usually gets knocked out in one turn, and so you really don't have a response. You can't really stream Sableye to kind of delay the match while you're getting some of your Pokemon set up. So while I understand that in like the traditional build of the deck has a heavy Sableye count and uses it to stall early on with Junk Hunt just to kind of get set up, I'm kind of favoring the Smeargle route. Smeargle and Sableye kind of do the same thing, so I might take out the Sableye parts, maybe add another Absol, or find another way to speed up the deck. But for now, we're gonna just go with the normal build of Sableye and Darkrai, and just know that Sableye is here to be designed to help you to kind of set up early on by just having Hypnotoxic lasering your opponent, Crushing Hammering your opponent, things like that, or even getting back a couple of dark patches to get energy accelerated onto Darkrai quickly. But yeah, so that's what he's there for. We have one Exeggcute because we're running Ultra Balls and a heavy count of Junk Arms, so we don't want to be discarding our entire deck to utilize those items. So that's kind of what Exeggute's there for. Again, in testing, Exeggcute hasn't really pulled its weight all that much. I still usually just discard things because I don't want to draw them again, and because I just want a response at the moment. But yeah, in theory, it's there to help you to avoid discarding valuable resources. So for now, he stays, and if it's not, pulling his weight in the long run, then I might cut him for something else. But yeah. We have one Jirachi just because I like having at least one Jirachi in case I'm just completely dead drawing and I have a way to get an Ultra Ball or Dual Ball or whatever, then Jirachi can save my hand. With the amount of supporters that we run, even though we make up for it with a Random Receiver, I still just prefer having a Jirachi on hand. So one Jirachi. Keldeo is also important because if you just look at the deck without Keldeo, right? Just like imagine he's not there. If they Hypnotoxic Laser you and you're put to sleep, you can't move anywhere. There's no switching options because we have all these other items that we want to use. So without any switching option, Keldeo is going to be our primary way to switch if we are asleep or having some sort of special condition. So definitely Keldeo is an important piece of this deck, and you can still usually get him out quickly enough because we run 2 Ultra Ball and 2 Dual Ball, so there's plenty of ways to get Pokemon out. Plus we have Junk Arms to get some valuable balls if we really need it. So yeah, one Computer Search just because it's an amazing egg spec. Now the decision here is to whether to run Computer Search or Dowsing Machine. And Computer Search is really great, especially since I kind of tried to play this deck in a faster route than most people would, and so Computer Search early on is great. But Computer Search late game is actually not that great because usually at that point a lot of your resources are in the discard. If you look at all the items we play, right? Once you play the items, outside of Junk Arm, you're not getting them back. So Dowsing Machine might be a better option, especially since it gives us another supporter option when we draw into it. So that's a potential change of the build, but for now, computer search is kind of the default one, and it's pulled its weight so far. So we'll just have to see how well it functions with more matches. Moving on, we have 3 Crushing Hammer and 1 Loss Remover. So part of the way that the Darkrai deck is going to work is definitely going to be Energy Denial and Disruption. So this is your primary way of disruption outside of the Hypnotoxic Laser, but that has a secondary reason why we run it, so I'll talk about that later. But yeah, why 3 Crushing Hammer and not 4? Why 1 Loss Remover and not 2? Well, it's just space restraints. We have to fit a bunch of other things, and there's just not enough room to have a max count of Crushing Hammer or Loss Remover. And we don't even, and as you can see, we have Dark Patch here too. So in case you don't know what Dark Patch does, it's going to be a very important piece of the puzzle for this deck. It allows you to attach a basic Dark Energy card from a discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon, one of your Dark Bench Pokemon. So that's kind of how we speed up the deck. Is we discard some Dark Energy early on, we draw into Dark Patch, and we just start dumping energy onto an attacker and then just start swinging with it. So it allows you to break the 1 energy per turn rule, and you can quickly set up an attacker in 1 turn and then attack with it. So it's kind of got that kind of speed aspect going for it. Dark Patch absolutely is very critical for this deck. And I say that, and it's not a 4, and it's only a 3. So why do I only have 3 instead of 4? Again, it's just space restrictions, you know. Maybe in future builds, if I decide to cut these guys, I might max count some of these pieces. But like I said, for now, we're just going to stick with the traditional build to a certain extent. And to go with that, we're going to need to cut Dark Patch down to 3. We have 4 Junk Arm. So we can reuse it as we need to. So that's kind of why I've cut some of these pieces down, just to kind of have enough room for everything else that we have in here. So Dual Ball and Ultra Ball, this is a 2-2 split. I tried the build with some collectors in here, and honestly I just didn't want to use collectors ever, because usually if I'm going second and they have a big turn, I don't want to waste my time playing a collector when I need a response, you know, to their first turn. If I go first, I'm usually trying to set up a Hypnotoxic Laser Virbank early on so I can get a quick 30 damage in while I set up some energy on my attackers. So that's kind of my 2 goals in the very beginning. So playing a collector is not going to help with that, because usually you don't have all those pieces together and you just want more draw at that point. You want draw early, and that's kind of what Smeargle's there for, and so that's why we don't have collector. But replacing it with more Dual Ball and Ultra Ball, it hasn't really been as much of a problem. Usually you do draw into it early on, especially with Smeargle's effect. That's why Smeargle's a 2 up there, because it'll help us look through our deck a lot faster. So these 2 are enough to get your Pokemon out. We have 3 lasers, and still can't scroll, so 3 lasers and 3 Virbank City Gyms. This is a critical piece of your strategy. Again, every laser with a Virbank adds 30 damage, and Darkrai, like I said, it doesn't hit for a lot of damage. It doesn't go for the 1-hit KOs. It goes for 2-hit KOs and sets up KOs along the way. So adding an extra 30 damage with a Hypno Laser Virbank is incredibly important, because let's just look at some of the math, right? Darkrai does 90. We have some Dark Claws here to make it 110. Well, again, we'll talk about Dark Claws later too, but Dark Claw makes it 110. Hypno Laser makes it 140, and that means there's only usually 30 HP left on an EX, and Darkrai hits to 30 on the bench. So whatever you hit with a Darkrai, with a Dark Claw, and a Laser, the next turn, even if it goes to the bench, it's not going to be able to hide, because Darkrai can just hit it from the snipe damage. So that's kind of why the Laser is so important. because it just helps you set up those KOs that Darkrai is known for. So for Junk Arm, absolutely needs to be a 4 count. We have way too many items that we will definitely need more of than what we have throughout the match, and that's where Junk Arm comes in. I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but as you can see, our support accounts are a little thinner this time, and we have the Random Receiver build, so that's going to be where Junk Arm also comes into play to get random receivers as well. But anyway, we'll get to that once we get there. So for Junk Arm, absolutely necessary. Reusing Dark Patch is awesome. Reusing Crushing Hammers when we come to it is awesome. Getting back Hypno Laser once we've used up all 3 of ours is very important. Definitely the glue of the deck is right here, and with this deck absolutely needs 4 to function. 1 Loss Remover, it's there to kind of complement the Crushing Hammer's disruption, but being a one-of means that you're not going to see it in every match, even with matches that it's relevant in. We also run only 1 Skyla, not 2, so getting just a Loss Remover is usually difficult, especially since we're usually not even playing Skyla. We just want to draw through our deck. So we're just hoping to draw into these items rather than trying to dig for them, because we can't spare the time to not have a draw supporter. We're trying to do multiple things at once to set up those late game KOs. So 1 Loss Remover, it can be useful in certain matchups. If you get it early, it's awesome, and then you can use it with Junk Arm as you need to. But it's here to complement the disruption, and with more matches under this deck's belt, then we'll see kind of how the value of Loss Remover as time goes on. 2 Catcher, and 2 is usually enough because of Junk Arm. In a perfect world, I would want 3, but 2 is fine so far. We've had catchers work when we need them. There are some matches, obviously, where it's not going to work, but hey, that's kind of how coin flips go. So 2 should be good, and Junk Arm can make you use it more and more. With Darkrai's snipe damage, usually when you hit something and they retreat, you're able to take it out the next turn regardless. So you usually don't have to bring it back up to take a KO. You usually just, once you hit something, you're able to finish the job then the next turn or the turn after, so without needing any other items. So 2 Catcher should be fine. If you know, Lysander becomes even more important for this build as time goes on, I might try to increase it to 3. If we drop these 3 pieces here, we do have some more space, so that's one consideration. And here we go. So previously, I didn't really utilize Random Receiver all that heavily, but in this build I wanted to try it, and I think it works well, because we're able to thin out our supporter line to make some room for a Random Receiver, and honestly, it's working pretty well so far. You open up Random Receiver and you can pull a supporter. Since if you look at our supporter counts, we have what is it again? 8, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 supporters, 8 of them are draw, so your chances of drawing a draw supporter are pretty high. So it's been working well just because of this supporter lineup is my guess. And we can reuse it with Junk Arm when we need to. There's also the added benefit of not giving the opponent's Smeargles a supporter. So sometimes what happens is you have a hand and it has no supporter in the hand, but it does have a Random Receiver, so I don't use it before the turn ends. I leave it there, so that if the opponent has a Smeargle and they try to look at my hand and trying to use a supporter, they get nothing. But the next turn, I can just use Random Receiver, and I do get my supporter. So it has that added benefit, and I really like that. In the mirror match, it becomes very important, because mirror match, their Smeargles are going to be constantly using their ability to look at your deck or look at your hand. And so setting up that kind of a trap for them really helps out. It slows them down while you still benefit from having the flexibility that Random Receiver provides with its ability to be used with Junk Arm. So yeah, it's working well, like I said, in this build so far, and we'll see how it goes as time goes on. One Tool Scrapper, absolutely necessary because there's so many tools that you got to deal with. G Booster's one of them, Eviolite, Dark Claw, etc., etc. We've already talked about a lot of these things, so Tool Scrapper absolutely necessary as a one of. Going up to 2, I don't think you really need to. Sometimes it can be troublesome with it being buried in the deck, but eventually, like along the way, you're gonna hit a Skyla somewhere along the way, and so you're able to find it if you absolutely need it. So yeah, 1 should be fine. We've already talked about the Ultra Balls, the supporter line. So it feels, I mean, at first glance, it looks really thin. You know, 3 Junipers, 2 Oaks, and 2 N, and 1 Colress. That's not that many. So there's plenty of people that will play 3 Oak, 3 Juniper, 2 N, and 2 Colress, or even 3 of these 3 here. So in playtesting, when I got to these amounts of supporters, I was able to go through my deck pretty consistently, and usually I would finish a match with just 1 supporter left or no supporters left. So towards the end, it can get a little hairy because Darkrai matches are going to last quite a long time because it's just a medium to slow paced deck. So it can get a little hairy towards the end, especially if they discard some of them early on. Then your random receivers don't help as much because you're going to be using them too often, and all your supporters are going to be gone by the end. But you know what? All the matches I've had so far, they've all kind of got to that point, but we never actually got to the end of that point. So I've always had at least 1 supporter, even at the very end. So I'm not too worried about increasing the supporter counts just yet. If I have a couple of bad matches where I end up running out of supporters, maybe I'll consider it. But for now, I think it works I think it's a pretty perfect amount for now, because it allows me to go through all of my deck, and so that's kind of the whole point, right? If you can do that with your supporter count, then the whole deck will just function the way it's supposed to. So yeah, 3 Junipers over, let's say, 2 Juniper and 3 Oak, because I think discarding is more important in this deck, because look at all the tools we play, right? When we draw into these hammers and these lasers and these dark patches, we're going to play them, right? So usually your hand size after a turn is not going to be high. It's going to be low. And so you're going to usually want to Juniper those last couple of cards away, rather than trying to shuffle those couple of cards away. So, and then also Juniper helps to increase the consistency of getting any of the other pieces that we haven't drawn into yet. So Juniper for sure, I think, is the highest supporter count you need for this kind of deck. We do have the one Skyla. I mean, I tried it with 2, but we had to make cuts, so this is where we are. 3 Virbank, absolutely necessary for the Hypno Laser strategy. Against Verzian Genesect or Celebi Genesect, it really hurts to not be able to use these pieces, and honestly, that matchup is not that great. Like, I would say it's a 60-40 matchup against Celebi Genesect, usually in 60 in their favor, 40 in ours, because they explode. You're just done. I mean, there's really no way to recover if they can explode. So, but that's the same for any deck going against Celebi Genesect. So yeah, no real loss there. Your matchups against other decks are usually pretty good. Against Plasma decks, you have a fairly decent matchup. It's about, I would say, about 50-50. The Absols really pull their weight because they're a non-EX attacker, and Plasma decks love to fill their bench with a lot of Pokemon, so Absol really does pull his weight in those kind of matches. But yeah, Landorus is a terrible matchup because we're all of these guys are weak to fighting, except for some of our techie ones. So that's not a good. It's not a fun matchup, especially since most Landorus will run Garbodor to lock up our abilities. And without our abilities, like without Darkrai's free retreat, we're kind of up the creek without a paddle there. So yeah, not a good matchup. I mean, I haven't faced one yet, but I don't think it's going to be fun to face one if I have to come across it. So yeah. What else is there? Mewtwo's are usually good. Darkrai has a fairly good matchup with Mewtwo's because of his resistance. So he's got a resistance to Psychic, and when a and if you think about the amount of damage that Mewtwo's do, right? Usually they have 2 energy to hit you, right? So they have 2 energy, you usually have 3 to hit with Night Spear, that's 5, right? So they do 100 damage to you, but with the resistance they only do 80 damage. So if they're trying to 2-hit KO you, they're only doing 160 total and they miss out on the KO. So the resistance actually plays a huge factor in that matchup. And I think it just favors the Darkrai matchup for sure. Because Darkrai is going to be 2-hit KOing the Mewtwo, but the Mewtwo, unless without committing more energy, they can't 2-hit KO the Darkrai. So I like that matchup. In terms of the other competitive decks in the format, Weavile is another deck that, you know, if they explode, then, you know, you're just kind of, again, up shit's creek. But Absol's here for as a secondary attacker, and it only needs 2 energy, so it can usually net you some KOs to kind of keep up pace with the prize trade. Ray Eels, again, the non-EX option helps because in an Eel deck they have to fill their full bench up, and that's kind of where Absol shines is facing a high bench count. Also, Ray Eels, the Eels, some of them have 30 HP and some of them have 40. Let's try to look one up. I don't even know what the basic name is. Eel. Electric. Yeah, I don't know what the basic form of that one is. Hold on a second. We will take a look. Is it this one? Dynamo. That's right. That's his name. So yeah, so you can see some of these Dynamos are 40 HP and some of them are 30 HP. And I'm not sure why people run the 30, but they do. It's weird. I've seen several builds now where they're using the 30 HP build, and it's just, I don't think it's a good idea ever. No matter what attacks it gives you, no matter the retreat cost or whatever they're trying to do with the 30 versus the 40, always run 40. Because Kyurem hits the bench for 30, Darkrai hits the bench for 30. If you're trying to play an Eel deck and you have some Dynamos on the bench, Kyurem or Darkrai is just going to take them out before they evolve. So don't ever play 30, play 40. But yeah, so for whatever reason people want to play the 30 version, Darkrai is there to snipe them off. So you get a couple of quick KOs that way. Absol's there to, once their bench is full, to just hit hard. But, so yeah, I would say, again, that's a 50-50 matchup. In terms of the rest of the deck, there's really, like I said, there's not much left there. We have 2 Dark Claw to get that extra boost of damage. 2 is fine. You don't want to go to 3 because Junk Arm can't get it back for you if you absolutely need the extra damage. So, and then 1 Float Stone just because sometimes you're in a situation where you have a Keldeo and you don't want to commit an energy to the Keldeo, and you just rather Float Stone it. Plus, sometimes you draw it early and someone's stranded in the act, you just Float Stone him and he can still have free retreat. So it's kind of useful just to be able to move your pieces around. It's not absolutely critical because, like I said, we do have the Keldeo option, and all you need is 1 Dark Energy on Keldeo to be able to have the rush and retreat with Darkrai's ability. So the Float Stone is a potential flex card. In terms of energy, we run 8 energy, and some builds, again, will run 9 energy, and honestly, I would love to have 9, but 8 is about as much space as I can spare in this build. Everything in this build is already, like, we're already at at the limits of our build by being forced to drop some of these counts a little lower than we normally would. So I don't think we can have any room for more than 8. But yeah, that's kind of the deck. Try it out. In terms of the expensiveness of this deck, like, I have a bunch of full arts here, but Darkrai is pretty cheap. The promo version is only like 1 or 2 packs. Absol is super cheap. Smeargle will currently, because I think there's Call of Legend version Smeargles, right? So we do have Call of Legends in the tournaments now, so you should be able to get a couple of Smeargles for like a couple of packs. And Keldeo's, again, there's a promo version. Jirachi, we're on the ladder recently, so they should be cheap. Exeggcutes are dirt cheap, and Sableye are cheap. Everything here is pretty much cheap except for the computer search. That's going to run you up about like 10-12 packs. But yeah, go ahead and try this out. And we have only one match this time, but it's a really cool match. It went the distance, and I'm not going to show you or tell you how it ends. Me personally, as a YouTube broadcaster, I like to show matches that are kind of a mix of wins and losses, right? So, because I know that that's a complaint that some people have for other YouTube videos for this game, that they only show wins or whatever. I like to show both. I like to show you usually when my deck is functioning the best and when my deck is functioning the worst. And so you get a full picture of your experiences in the format. And honestly, that's kind of what Legacy is about. Legacy is going to be a format where you're going to have a lot of losses due to bad draws, and you're going to have some really cool wins because the opponent has bad draws. That's just kind of the nature of the format. It doesn't have a lot of deck thinning potential like Battle Compressor early on to be able to streamline your draws. So you're just gonna, it's just a part of the life of this format. So yeah. Alright guys, well, let's get into a match, and we'll pick it up from there. Alright, so TDK looks like. This might have been, I think we might have played this guy in our previous video. So that'll be interesting. Last time I remember he couldn't get his deck going all that quickly. But this time we're playing a totally different deck, so it could be a different outcome. TDK usually piles on a lot of their Pokemon on the bench, which means that Absol is going to be really useful in this matchup. Lasers are going to be useful because they're not blocked by anything like Virizion or Genesect. We won the coin flip, that's always great. We can hopefully start with the Laser Bank to get 30 damage right up front. Okay, not that great of a start, but we do have the Dual Ball. Wondering what we should get is the question. Wow, his whole hand is just a bunch of lasers and catchers, so a lot of our Pokemon are going to be moving around quickly. And honestly, that usually means I don't want to bench Jirachi, unless I absolutely have to. Fine, okay, great, perfect, we have a Darkrai in play. We have a ton of energy, so not really sure what we should get here. Smeargle sounds like a good option, actually. There we go. Okay, we have our Russian retreat with Keldeo. Let's go ahead and try to do a portrait. We can do an N because I really need a new hand. The fact that he's already got 2 Deoxys is pretty bad. Can play this. I'm tempted to get rid of those energies with the Ultra Ball to get my Absol out, or even to get my because if he can KO my Smeargle this turn, all he needs is literally a Hypnotoxic Laser and just 1 electric energy. So I'm tempted to actually get rid of my Darks for an Absol. Yeah, and I think I'm going to do that, because in this way, if I can draw into my Dark Patches, I'll have energy in the discard already ready to go. So we will play the Sableye, and we'll just end our turn. Usually TDK has an explosive start. He's starting with Thundurus though, so he doesn't have any energy in the discard to accelerate unless he starts discarding more. And he uses Plasma Balls, so he can't use Ultra Balls to discard energies. Juniper is a way to do it. And Junk Arm, obviously. So there is 1 energy he discarded to accelerate onto Kyurem. So we might get away with having a Smeargle alive this turn, which could be pretty helpful. I will play Random Receiver first. because I can't count on his hand, obviously, and if it is a Juniper, I lose my Random Receiver. There's the laser, so that plan's out the window. I can still technically rush in and retreat to use Smeargle's ability, and I might just do that because I need some time to power up my Darkrai. He's already loading up his bench, so Absol is going to be huge. We have plenty of ways to get more Pokemon in play. We have one more Dual Ball and 2 Ultra Balls and all the... Okay, so it looks like he was able to get the Virbank, so that sucks. He wasted a computer search on that too, so that's actually, so he must have really wanted that KO. But no matter, we have energy in the discard now. There's a Dark Patch. The question here is, what do I start powering up? I just need technically 1 Dark Patch and 1 energy after this, so I might just have to go for this, being early Darkrai play. Colress is great. There's a Float Stone. There is, okay, so here's what we'll do. We'll just go right into it. Can do this to get a Dark Patch. Can attach the Dark Claw. We'll save the end. It's asking me if I got any Full Art Deoxys. Oh yeah, I forgot, my account got muted for posting a link, which I accidentally, the other day I accidentally posted a link, so it is what it is. But yeah, so now even if he attacks me with his Kyurem, he gets 1 shot, so that's great. Thundurus isn't going to do anything to me right now. Kyurem, even with Blizzard Burn, does 140. With Silver Bangle does 170, so he actually could KO me here, so hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he doesn't have a Colress Machine and a Prism Energy, which is all he would really need. Goes for the Junk Arm. He actually got rid of a Colress Machine. Wow, okay. For the Plasma Ball. Guess he just wants to do some damage with Thundurus first. If he got rid of a Colress Machine, then I'm not as worried as I was about the Blizzard Burn. But it's okay. So he's got 3 Deoxys now. His whole bench is full. The Absols, maybe it's going to be a good late game play at this point. Laser sucks. Hopefully it doesn't make a difference in the KOs for this turn. So he did attach... What did he attach? He attached a Plasma. So now I think I'm okay. If he attached a Plasma manually, even Colress Machine's not going to help him. So he's going for the first attack, which is fine with me. So he's going to do 60, he's going to do 90, and then I'm going to be hit. So I have 120 left. Can take a KO on this Kyurem, so all his energy goes away. And I have an N. Obviously I'm going to play it even though he only has 2 cards in his hand. So he's going to start setting up the KO with the Keldeo. There's a Dark, I don't want to play it. I'm going to try to save the attachment for maybe another attacker. Okay, so big decision here. I can actually use Absol right now if I really want to. He's asking me, well, I can't talk right now, so I can't really answer him. But he was asking me, so actually, I can't power up a Absol in this one turn. And he's gonna be hit. He's actually going to just hit me pretty hard here. So I think I can't do anything right now. What I will do though is maybe just start powering up. I'll just start powering it up, I guess. There's the Absol. We'll Dark Patch something so that we have an attacker next turn. He's going to be hitting pretty hard. We will Tool Scrapper. So he doesn't get free retreat on anybody. We will rush in and retreat. He's only got 60 HP left. I mean, I fully expect him to because even a single Thundurus' Riding Knuckle will KO him. But he's the only attacker we have, and so we just have to keep on rolling. Hopefully we get a catcher next turn, and we can set up a Thundurus KO in the future. There's a Darkrai. He brought up the Kyurem. He must have a switch in his hand. I don't know why he would do that. So he's just going to go for the Colress machine, which is fine with me. We can smack him with Absol. Absol is doing 100 damage, so we just need one Hypno Laser. But he's taking a huge prize lead, but the end is on our side in this case, so got plenty of energy in the discard now, so yeah. I will promote the Keldeo so that I can use some Dark Patch if I absolutely need to. So we'll play this, and we'll end. Okay, we didn't hit any energy, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to go with Smeargle. Can knock out the water energy. Can retreat into Smeargle. See what we can do with his hand. He has a special and a Colress machine, so he can Blizzard burn me. So that sucks. We missed out, unfortunately. We're gonna have to go down another prize, and this is looking rough. If we had got the energy there, we could have knocked out the Kyurem. Or, I mean, we would have needed more, I guess, than just the energy. We would need a laser as well. But we do have 2 prizes sitting at the bench for us. So I like to imagine this as just a 3-3 game at this point. Because unless he decides to retreat or switch or something, but we already kind of know his hand. Unless he drew a supporter off that hand, he's not doing anything here. He's probably going to hit us with the Frost Spear. So he's going to do 60. He's got the other Deoxys. He's asking himself if he wants to bench it to take the KO. Because if he benches it, he does take the KO, but it adds more damage with Absol. So let's see what he chooses. He does decide to bench the Deoxys, and he got a Skyla off of that, so that kind of sucks. I wish he had a Skyla in his hand beforehand. He's got the Colress now though, so that's something for him. He'll take the KO. We're doing 120 right now. A single Dark Claw will help us out. We already lost one, but we've used 1 Junk Arm, so we have plenty of options here. We're definitely benching this guy. We'll just do this, because I don't want to waste a supporter hand. Okay. We got the energy. We didn't get the Dark Claw. What we'll do is we'll just get rid of the other guy's energy, because I know he's going to come and be active here. So we're doing 120. It kind of wish we had a Dark Claw, to be honest, but you know, it is what it is. We have a Juniper next turn, so we're not gonna have a dead hand for sure. So that's great. Gotten rid of all his energy. He has a Colress in hand though, so he will definitely get more energy. Bad news bears is that he's got 40 more damage on top of this 30, so that gives him 70, and we have exactly 70 HP left. So he will be able to take out our Absol this turn. We haven't hit any of our catchers, which kind of sucks. There's the Colress. Let's see what he does. If he has any more Kyurems, he does. Kyurem's gonna hit us for 70, even a Hypno Laser. I think at this point our best option is to ditch the Absols and start powering up Darkrai. Do we have the resources to do so? We've lost 2 of these, but we only have lost 1 Junk Arm. So I have a good feeling about this. If we can get a Catcher and a Dark Patch and a Junk Arm, we can knock out this guy, and we can knock out the Kyurem, or at least do some damage to the Kyurem. So we do get the Catcher. We'll bring up the Kyurem. We'll attach the Dark Energy here. We'll play this in case we can't take the KO. We whiffed on a Junk Arm, so that happened. So yeah, I guess we're just gonna leave Keldeo active because we can't lose a prize at this point. Just gotta hope he doesn't have anything. See what he does. We were able to get rid of the energy. Plays a laser. If it's a heads flip, okay, good. Does he have a switch? How many has he played? He's lost 1 Float Stone and 1 switch. So he hasn't done anything. So I'm assuming he's either calculating how to take the last prize or he doesn't have a hand. 1 more turn for us, and could be in business here. So the question here is, do I take out the Kyurem or do I take out a Deoxys? And I think I take out a Deoxys. It won't be a one-hit KO like the Kyurem would be, but we do stand to have much better chance since we haven't used 3 of our 4 Junk Arms. So he's powering up this Deoxys. We haven't used 3 of our 4 Junk Arms, so that means we do have a lot of options here to get more catchers. We just need this to work. And it fails. And I'm just not realizing we have 9 cards left in our deck, so we will... Okay. We have 2 turns left after this, basically. There's 2 Junk Arms. So I think we definitely play 1 for the Catcher. Come on, Catcher. Yes. Alright. So bring up the Deoxys. Retreat. Hypno Laser. And Night Spear. Okay, so now he absolutely has to take the KO or he loses. To retreat, he's gonna play. He probably has a switch. I can't believe he wouldn't have a switch. Can this Deoxys kill us? Is the question. We have 120 HP. He's got the switch. 30, 60, 90, 120. Actually, he can kill us. And he will kill us. So that's match. But we were almost in there. We had a really close match at the end there. I mean, we had the chance. Wait, I forgot about resistance. We actually... What? I forgot about the resistance. Alright then. Wait, if I hit with Darkrai, is it a tie? No, because I can rush in and retreat. We won this match, fellas. Bam! That is game. Wow, what a clutch finish. That's one of the things about Darkrai is so many matches are always super close. It's gonna be, they're always long and drawn out matches, and you're really gonna do a lot of the damage calculations correct. And I think we made a misplay early on with getting that Sableye. It turned out to not be very useful since we were facing a fairly fast deck, and so Sableye is kind of designed to be a slower route. But we did it, we pulled it out somehow. We had one card left in our deck, and all of our junk arms were at the end. That catcher flip was clutch. So yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed this match, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.